So once again, we are diving into chapter 8, where we're going to be learning about items and how we can purchase those items in purchase inventory. Okay, so here is a huge aspect, especially when we're dealing with the vendor section of the homepage, right? Where we're actually purchasing inventory for the purpose of selling them back to our customers. Okay. Excuse me real quick. Right. So as we've take a look, right, we're going to be on inventory 21. All right. That's the work file that we're going to be looking at today. Okay. All right. Okay. So once again, here are the QuickBooks items. So as we mentioned before, in I believe chapter 12, in chapter 2, and chapter 4, right, we got to take a look at what items do. Especially in chapter 2, right, we got to take a look at how we set up our sales tax items, as well as when we actually sold our items, right? How did we determine where these items come from? And that's exactly what this whole section is, this actually first couple of pages is all about. So it's all about how we utilize items in regards to our sales process, okay? So basically what items are is it's going to be anything that we set up as whether it's a service, a product that we sell. It could be, things like discounts, payments that go towards a specific item. It could be tax that we charge for the sales, okay? And that is exactly what we're going to be dealing with today. So as we know before, we're pretty okay, but or kind of familiar with the items list, okay? Once again, the items list is going to be basically a list of everything that you pretty much sell in regards to your company. So once again, let's talk about the item types. There are a total of 11 item types that you can create, okay? All right. First one, once again, is service item, right? And we're going to take a few examples on how to create each item. But once again, I'm only going to go over a few just because once you can create one item, you could pretty much create every item, okay? So once again, a service is pretty much when you provide a service. So anything that you, provide, and it's something that you invest your time in, okay? Again, when we talk about things that we sell, we have 3 things here, all right? But in here, it's only mentioned 2. So the first one's going to be inventory part, okay? Now, an inventory part is going to be any type of product that you deem to be valued as inventory, because at the end of the day, what you're going to do with that inventory is you're going to resell it out to your customers. So if you have a means to keep track of the inventory, right, you would consider that as an inventory part, all right? An inventory assembly is where you can actually create the product. And so, for example, right, if you're a bakery, right, instead of, in order to make a cake, you would need eggs, flour, sugar, milk, flour, right? All of those are going to be things that you need to create a product. So that's what inventory assembly does. It helps you create a product, okay? And then we have non-inventory part. Now, a non-inventory part is basically an item that you sell, but you don't care enough to keep track of it, all right? Now, we'll talk about periodic and perpetual in a few minutes, but the best way to understand how to determine whether an inventory part or a non-inventory part is going to be used is based on the criteria of, do you care to keep track of it? And if you do, then inventory part. If you don't, then you don't need to consider it as an inventory. You would use a non-inventory item at that point. Okay. Other things that we have here are going to be other charges. So again, if you need to charge for anything such as extra fees, late fees, or anything like that, that's going to be considered an other charge, or things like shipping. Okay. Subtotals, once again, subtotal and discount are calculating items, which we got to see in chapter 2, where they basically calculate either a total or, in this case, a discount, calculates the discount. Okay. Other things that we have here is group items. So if you have bundles or packages that you sell together, that would be a great example to use group items, right? And we also talked about how the next one would be pay discounts, where we already said that, the calculating item. Payments. You can use payments as in various ways, right? You can use it as if it's a customer payment, right? But we did see an extensive version of a customer payment. You can use this as maybe a what do you call it? A payment against, or against an invoice, all right? Other things that you can use it for is just any terms of means for like advance payments. Okay. And we also got to take a look at a sales tax item and a sales tax group, right? Sales tax item, if you're paying one agency, you only need to create one. But if you're paying two separate agencies, one for the state and one for the local, then you need to create a sales tax group. Okay. So those are the 11 types of each items that you can create. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at how we're able to locate or create our items. Okay, very first one is going to be on the home page. Right here under company, you have items and services. All right, that's your first one right there. Items and services on the home page. Okay. Your second one is going to be in your list, okay? You could go to list, and the very first or second one is going to be your items list, okay? Now, you can create your other items list if you'd like. I believe it's you have an items list under company, but for the more common ones that you can use, or for you to go locate, would technically be either list on the menu bar, or it's going to be under company, under items and services, okay? But as you gradually go ahead and look through it, you do have it under your company menu bar, but you also have a small section under vendors. If you go to inventory activities, you don't get your items list, but you could create a new item if you'd like through this section right here, because once again, items and services are related to inventory, okay? A small section of it. So any inventory part or non-inventory part is going to be considered one of those things that are featured for an inventory, okay? But once again, the two main ways, homepage and list on the menu bar, all right? So I'm just going to go ahead and go into my items list by just clicking on items and services, and boom, here is going to be a list of all the ones that are already pre-created in QuickBooks. And what we're going to do is we're going to spend a couple minutes creating our items with the examples that we have here in the book. Now, it's identical to setting up an account, right? Well, we took a look in chapter 12 how to do that. You simply just go down to the menu, down on the page where it says items. You get a drop-up menu, and you're going to go ahead and click new. Or anywhere on the page, you right-click, you can create a new item that way as well. All right? All straightforward. And then again, the other feature one was that vendors on the menu bar, clicking on inventory activities, and you could create a new item right there too. Okay? So that is pretty much the ways that you can create a new item. Now, since I'm already here on the items list, I'm going to go ahead and go down to the bottom where I hit items, and I'm going to create a new item. All right, so everybody please follow along with me on this page right here, which is page 283. We're going to start our very first item, which is going to be a service item. All right, so let's go ahead and see what kind of item, what details we are going to be included under service. Okay, now here's a few things. So I click on new, and here's this page right here to help create a new item. So the very first one is that if you go up to this drop down menu, it should give you the list of all the 11 types of items that you can create. All right, right here. All right, so we're going to create a service item. That's the first thing we're going to do. Okay, we are going to name this as, what is it? I think it's just a photo session. Okay, I think it's just a photo session.
Yeah, photo session.
All right, so there we go. Photo session. All right. Now we didn't really talk about sub items, but somewhere in the book you have a little section where you can create a sub item. So if it's a particular item, and let's say you have it in different other materials that it can come with, you can create sub items to kind of expand the idea of a specific product. So let's say, for example, I have the 5x7 frames. I can create sub items to say this one's plastic, this one's wood, this one's metal. All right, or you could do it by colors too. You could say this one's blue, brown, pink, whatever it is that you can do. But in this case, sub items are not going to be very used here. It's just another way to just keep breaking down your items even further down based on color type or whatever means that you want to separate or create you know, little miniature items for. All right, in this case we're not going to be looking at sub items at all in this class. Okay, I believe there's one section in there for the vendors, but that's okay. I'm going to skip over that. All right, so here now the next thing is we need to have this section where we fill in the description. So pretty straightforward, right? It's a photo session. All right, you can determine whether it's hourly, whatever it is, right? Now the next section right here is going to be what the rate is, and this is where you're going to be filling in information about the sales process here. So linking to how we charge our customers. So in this case, this word rate here is basically your selling price. All right, I'm going to charge for my service, right? For every hour, I'm going to charge $95. Okay, now here's what's weird, because they didn't change it in the book, that you obviously can't tax services, right? So you're actually supposed to change this to service, and they just left it in the book as taxed. Weird. Okay. And once again, this account that we're going to be linking this service item to is going to be our revenues for services. Okay. So once again, in order for you to create an item, you should have a general account that you are going to be linking each item to, because that's the purpose of items, is it helps you link accounts so you can either separate your income, your expenses, or if it's tied to your inventory asset itself. By you telling QuickBooks all of these information, it's only going to make it that much easier to calculate and have the accounting done behind the scenes for you. So in this case, I'm telling that for this service, I'm going to link it to my service account, because every time I have a service, I'm generating revenue. okay? Because that's part of what I sell. I sell a service. So that's going to be considered income to me, all right? And once you fill that information out, that's where we can say, okay, I now can be done with this item and create it, all right? And there it is, right? Now, this next section that we have here is going to be talking about how subcontractors can work. So not only can you link your accounts to them, you can even link if it's a subcontractor, which is a 1099 worker, you can link them to every single account, or in this case, in every single item. And we call that a two-sided item, where not only are we linking our income, we're linking our expense too. So then at the same time, every time I charge my service item, it's going to be directly correlated to a subcontractor. All right. And this is more predominantly in the next chapter, which is chapter 9, where we talk about how to use two-sided items for you to calculate both your income and your expenses simultaneously. All right. But in this case, I'm going to skip this section right here just because, once again, we're going to see it in chapter 9. Okay. So we created our very first service item. Okay. And let's just keep going down the line. Right. So once again, here's a non-inventory part. Okay. A non-inventory part, as we've described it, right, is in terms of understanding, is this going to be something that we want to keep track as inventory? All right. So if it's a product that you sell, but you don't sell it as often, or you don't care to keep track of it, then that's how you're going to determine that, okay, then I'm going to treat this item as a non-inventory item or a non-inventory part. Okay. So in this case, right, not only does Imagine Photography sell services, we sell non-inventory parts such as custom cameras. Okay. So and that's exactly what we're going to create, or in this case, a custom photo package. Excuse me. We have custom cameras, custom photo packages. Okay. So in this case, we're going to create a non-inventory part because in this case, right, we're creating a custom photo package. Meaning in this case, right, a customer can come in and decide that they want a customizable photo package that's going to fit what they need. So in this case, that's not technically something that we offer as a general item that we sell on the daily, right? Where our packages or our items that we normally sell is going to be our services, our picture frames, our cameras, etc., etc. But in this case, we have a custom photo package that customers can choose to purchase from us. All right. And how we're going to treat that is going to be a non-inventory part. Okay. So once again, let's go ahead and create our new item here. All right, same thing. We're going to go down to the bottom. We're going to click new. All right, and then this time, instead of clicking on that, we're actually going to go dive right into non-inventory part. Okay. Now, as you notice this, every time you select an item, you're going to notice that there could be more information that you need to have for each one. So if I were to click on inventory part, you could see the form has changed because as an inventory part, since we're keeping track of it, there's more accounts that we need to link them to. Okay? So every single item that you create, so group items, same thing here, right? Every time you create a specific item, you notice that the form starts changing. All right. So that's the difference, to make sure that you understand that every single item that you create, it is essentially going to be linking different accounts and different things that you need to know that is going to be revolved around your sales process. Okay. So again, I'm going to go to non-inventory part once again. Okay, and this time we are going to consider this, we are going to make this a custom photo package, right? In this case, it's customizable. Right? We'll talk about units of measure in a couple chapters. I mean, not chapters, in a couple sections from here. But this section right here is also going to be important, especially when we talk about selling items, all right? But that's going to be further down in the chapter. Right now, we're just focusing on creating our items, okay? And in this case, my description here is that this is a customizable photo package, okay? All right, once again, now this time, the question is, how are we going to treat this? Now, as far as rate or price, because it's customizable, right? And we don't know what the customer is going to be pulling in regards to their package, right? We just said that you can claim up to, you can build your own package. So in this case, I'm going to leave this pricing as 0, okay? The reason why I'm going to leave it as 0 is because, once again, we don't know what the customer wants. And if they're going to be building a package that includes, 5 photo sessions, 3 retouching, 1 photo lens, whatever that they want to create, right? It's going to be subjective, and it's going to be based on how many items they're going to be looking at. And in this case, with this, we're not going to set a price just yet because we don't know what the custom package that each customer wants. It's pretty much a build your own. So in this case, I'm going to not set a price. The price can always be set on the sales form itself. So right now it's reflecting at 0, but if this person wants all of those things that are included, 5 photo sessions, 2 hours of retouching, 1 picture frame, then that's going to determine for you what that price is, okay? And you can change and modify that anywhere you are in the sales form, okay? And of course, because we don't know what items are going to be included, it could be both a service or a product that you sell. So I'm going to go ahead and leave tax as an option because it could be something that they could be buying from us that includes things that are taxable. So in this case, you're also able to adjust this on the sales form as well. All right. Last but not least is going to be the account that you're going to be linking this to. And I believe this account is going to be sales. Okay. Because in this case, this is a package that we offer. It's going to be an item. It could be potentially an item, right, that we offer. It could be a service, right? But in this case, it's going to be treated as sales because this is a package that I offer as a product that I sell to my customers. So it's going to be considered as sales. All right. And that is all I have here, right? It's not going to be considered something that is part of inventory assembly. So we'll talk about that again later in this chapter. Okay. All right. So now, once again, I click that new and it populates right here. So now not only do I have a custom photo package, I have a photo session, okay, and etc., etc. All right. So far, so good?
Yes.
Okay. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at using an other charge item. So once again, you can, if for any reason that they're making online purchases or we need to ship things out to them, that's what an other charges can be used for, right? You can use it to create as a shipping item, right? You could use it for handling, for if it's a picture frame, obviously you want to make sure it's, tightly packaged, so there you could be charging handling as well. For any means that you have an other charge that isn't part of your actual sales itself, like whether you're selling a service or a product, then that's where you're going to consider other options for other charges. Okay. So again, this could be as far as shipping and handling, expedited cost if that person needs it now, right? Expedited costs. You can use this as a means to just charge customers for any additional things that they want to have, right? And once again, we're going to go ahead and create a shipping item, all right? And let's see, shipping and handling. So let's go ahead and create that item real quick, okay? So same thing, I can right click here and create new, right? And this time I'm creating an other charge. Now, if you guys remember, we used other charge for creating a bad debt item. Remember that? When we don't really charge our customers, but we're trying to get rid of and undo the accounts receivable, that's another way that we can use other charges for. Okay? So once again, the title here is going to be for shipping. Okay? And your description is going to be for shipping and handling. All right. Now here is where you could choose whether it's based on a percentage. Well, in this case, it's not based on a percentage. It's actually going to be based on a flat rate. So in this case, I'm going to say it's going to be 8.9, what is it? $8 and 95 cents. Now in this case, it's considered a rate, but again, you can change this so that it's not a rate. So it says amount or rate. So in this case, this I'm not going to do as a rate. It's going to be a flat rate. Excuse me. I guess in the way that we look at if shipping words, it is a flat rate of $8.95. Okay. Once again, shipping is obviously not taxable. You can't charge tax on shipping, nor can you charge nor can you discount shipping. Now, if you guys are a third-party shipping agency, then yes, you can definitely charge tax on shipping, okay? Because you are a third-party vendor that they're being used and being paid for you to charge shipping to. But for most cases, shipping is non-taxable, right? And it's a service. So in this case, it's going to be linked to a service, right? Because it's not a product that you sell. Because shipping is it's pretty much a service that you provide to get the items available to that person. So it's going to be linked as service, okay? And once again, I click on that. Now, as you can see, every time I'm building an item or every time I'm building something, I'm just making my items list bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay? And that is the goal, because every aspect that you look into the sales process itself is going to basically allow you to create your item list to be a lot longer. Now, what I've mentioned before is every product that you sell, you need to list them out, okay? Because in this case, the reason why we separate the items from our chart of accounts is that we're linking them to our chart of accounts. So in this case, this is a more so less idea where we're going beyond the chart of accounts and we're breaking down the chart of accounts to make it down to even further to create these items that help us keep track of our sales, our inventory, and so on and so forth, and all of our expenses that we had to incur. So once again, this is breaking down the sales process, the sales portion. So any account that's dealing with the sales or things that are linked to the sales. So cost of goods sold, which is directly correlated to inventory. Inventory asset, which is directly related to the items that you sell. So all of those are going to be contributing factors for this, and that's what we're breaking it down into, right? So let's see what else is next. Sales tax item, right? We already took an example of that, so we don't need to do that part right there. But I do want to go over one more inventory item just because if we go further down in the book, it asks you to create another item. So might as well, let's just do it right now and get that out of the way. So again, I don't know what page it's on when you create the item, but let's see. It should be somewhere here. Right? Okay, so here we're going to start creating an item, and it's going to be called the 5x7 wooden frame. Okay? So here on page 292, all right, I'm going to create my last item in this book. Okay? And that is to create an actual inventory part item. All right. And this is where you need to pay the most attention to because this one we're going to be linking 3 accounts. Okay. So again, we're going to go ahead and click on that inventory item. And this is what we have to deal with. All right. So the idea here is that we're going to be breaking down the inventory item in means to calculate how much it's going to cost me, in terms of how much I'm going to sell it for, and in terms of keeping track of my inventory. So every time I make a purchase and using this item, I'm increasing my own inventory. Every time I sell this item, that's what QuickBooks is going to do. It's going to calculate and tell me how much I'm going to get rid of in my inventory, and it's going to update it for me automatically. Okay? So let's go ahead and dive right here. So this is it's called frame 5x7, so 5x7 wooden. Okay. And your description is pretty straightforward, right? This is a 5x7, 5x7 wooden picture frame. Okay. Your description doesn't have to even match 100%, but it's pretty straightforward because that's exactly what you're making this item for. It's a 5x7 wooden picture frame, right? So now we're going to break it down and link the accounts that are associated with this particular item here. Now notice this on the right side, I have what I want to appear on my sales information, and on the left side it's going to be on for my books information. Okay, so notice that what I can do is if I click around, it's going to copy this, and this is what's going to appear on every person's sales form. So that's what QuickBooks does, is it allows you to link multiple forms together well, and it helps you fill out the information a lot easier, especially for the description, right? Instead of having to type all the descriptions in, you could just go ahead and just fill it in by this section right here. Okay. So now, once again, how much is it going to cost me? Now, this is also...
Can I ask you something?
Yes.
On the description, it's different than yours. I know that on the frame on the top you put 5 7 wooden. On the bottom it says 6 7. What's that mean? Do you add any item, or is it different, or is it a mistake, or
Just looks like a typo.
What do you mean? It says 6x7?
6 7. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, on the book,
yeah.
in the description, it says 6x7.
Oh, it's probably a typo because they have a 5x7 metal frame, and the other one is a wooden frame. So again, the book has a lot of typos. Mm-hmm. So in this case, my description does not match my book because like I said, the description is whatever you want to place in there.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm not going to follow the book or match my book
No, no,
identically. But no, I get
no,
it.
it's just good. No. Mhm.
It's just a little different. And it's for sure a 5x7 picture frame.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
So now we're going to talk about what it's going to cost me. Now, this is where you're going to be adding information that gives you the information when you make purchases of inventory. How much does it cost you to purchase this asset? Now, in this case, the book says that when you buy it from the vendor, it's going to be $5 each. Now, once again, when we talk about inventory, right, that's not true all the time. It's not always going to be $5, right? There could be a time where, that maybe there's a shortage of wood, shortage of metal, shortages of any type of material that can cause the cost of the item to fluctuate. So in this case, they just want you to type in $5, which is fine, because what this actually essentially does is when we take a look at our purchase orders, because we filled this information prior, it's going to fill in the purchase order with all the information. All you got to say is you just have to fill in how many you want, and the information is already filled in for you. Once again, all of these are going to be subjective to the vendor that you choose, because they're going to be giving you a catalog on what items you could purchase from them. And if they change their prices, you need to make sure that you change the prices on the actual purchase order forms, okay? But for now, it's $5, and here it automatically linked it as cost of goods sold. Right? And once again, my preferred vendor. Now, again, if you're purchasing cameras or you're purchasing any item from various vendors, you don't need to have a preferred vendor here. But in this case, he is my go-to guy, Ace Supply. All right. And that's what you could do. So every time you open up Ace Supply, these items are going to automatically populate because it's saying, hey, you must be buying this. All right. Then the one on the right is going to be what you're going to sell these picture frames for. In this case, right, the selling price is going to include the cost it's cost you to sell the item, or the cost that you originally purchased it for, plus a profit percentage. Because in this case, you never want to break even. Your goal is to sell a product and earn a profit. So in this case, it cost me $5. So I'm trying to go for close to 100%. In this case, profit. Because I'm gonna say that this picture frame is gonna be for $9.99. So in this, like I said, I mentioned before, right? It's close to 100% profit, right? Because if it cost me $5, and if I charge $10, it's 100% profit right there. Because by every one that I sell, I get the same exact amount in return. So in this case, it's just 1 penny off, so it's close to 100%, but that's usually what the profit percentage is usually going to be based off. It could be anywhere from 40%, 100%, even to the maximum of 500%. Okay? So once again, I'm going to go ahead and say I will charge at $9.99. Now, of course, it's a product, not a service. So that means it is subjected to be taxed. All right? Meaning there's a tax code on here. That means this item is taxable. And once again, this time, because it's a product that I sell, I'm going to link this to my income account for sales. Okay? All right. Last account that I'm going to be linking this into is going to be my inventory asset account. Okay, so it's already automatically right there. Now, this section right here is going to be how you keep track of your inventory, because every time you make a purchase, it's going to increase your inventory. Every time you sell something, it's going to decrease your inventory. And we call that perpetual tracking system for inventory. Okay, and we'll talk more about that in a few seconds. Okay, So once again, I'm linking this to my inventory asset account because once again, this is an item that I want to keep track as inventory. Right? Then you have reminder points where if your stock, right, quantity drops below a certain amount, you can set reminders to have a reminder saying, hey, you're low on inventory. You need to go make some more purchases of inventory before you run out. And you could do that by setting parameters on how much inventory you want to be reminded to make a repurchase. So in this case, right, that's what this is, reorder point. Okay, so if it falls below the minimum of, I believe it's 20 picture frames, I'm going to have QuickBooks set a reminder for me to say, hey, you need to reorder. Okay, now the maximum, I'm going to leave it blank, all right, because you don't need a maximum to remind you to get another shipping point, right, or the maximum amount that you can store. All right, so in this case, I'm going to leave it as is. So that part I don't need to fill in. Okay. Now here's a situation where you should not do this part because they do recommend if you are going to be having extra inventory items, or if you are starting a company file that already had inventory, that's where you're going to plug these numbers in. Once again, you have the on-hand value and you have the total value that you have. So in this case, you can fill it in if you need to, but for most cases, this is our very first item that we had, so we definitely don't have any items available. All right? And now that I finally finished this one, I can go ahead and click that OK. All right? So those are all the things that you need to have to link all the accounts that are associated for you selling a product. Okay. Any questions here?
Then on my page, it doesn't show, it's not the same exact as yours. Like I don't have the mats on mine. Where on the bottom for the inventory information, it says the access account, asset account, reorder point, on hand, total value, and then as of.
Do you have the Pro or I think you have the Pro.
Yeah, I have Pro 21.
Okay, if you have Pro 21, that could be one of the features that you don't have that the Premier and the accountant has yet.
Okay.
Right. So there you go. Boom. Okay. That's how you create items. It's very straightforward, very easy. Once again, the entire time where we're filling out all the questions that it was asking us. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and backtrack real quick because now we need to talk about inventory in general. So here, back up on this page right here, where we're going to be talking on page 287, okay? Bottom half of 287 is going to be talking about how we manage our inventory. So as the book says right here, basically it's going to be everything that you need to deal with in this top half section in the vendor section of the window, okay, on the home page, right, where we're going to be practicing using purchase orders and then receiving our items and then recording a bill from those items, okay? And this right here is your inventory. It's just how you create your inventory. And usually QuickBooks recommends you to use this purchase orders because this automatically updates your inventory in a much smoother way instead of having to manually do it through the sales form or any kind of form that you need to do, or using the inventory valuation form. Okay. They usually recommend you to do this. So for those who purchase like manually, where you go to the physical store and purchase your inventory items, Once again, you can do it. It's not wrong, but they do recommend you to order it using the purchase orders because it's going to make it much easier to keep track of inventory. Okay? And once again, if you guys remember, right, this feature must be turned on through QuickBooks, right? And this feature, once again, if you go to your edit preferences, this feature is going to be something that you have to toggle into the items and inventory, okay? And the question was here, do you keep track of inventory? And we selected yes, okay? So because we had this available and we said yes, we want to keep track of our inventory, that is why we have this little section here on our home page. Now, for any reason you decide not to sell products in general, right? You can simply just toggle this part off and say, no, I don't keep track of my inventories or my purchase orders. It's going to actually get rid of this on your home page. So if you're just selling a service, then that's completely fine. You can just get rid of it by deselecting that and validating that that's not what you're going to be using for your company. Okay? But in this case, it's already on and it appears right here on the top of the vendor's window. Okay? Now, here's a few things that I need to talk to you about is going to be how we actually keep track of inventory. All right? So as I've mentioned before, right, we talked about really briefly of what perpetual is. In QuickBooks, there are two methods that we keep track of inventory, all right? One of them is called perpetual and the other one is called periodic, all right? Now, the way that we determine the difference between periodic and perpetual will be based on how you actually keep track of your inventory. So, for example, periodic inventory, we only keep track of it every once in a while, right? Periodically. We don't care to keep track of it every single time we sell something. It's more along the lines that where you sell a certain product, but you know that this isn't a product that sells out all the time. It's a product that just stays on the shelf, and maybe once in a blue moon a customer comes in and buys that product. That's going to be something that you don't really need to keep track of because, if you purchase 5 of them, you can know by automatically looking at that product, right? And say, well, customers don't really buy this product that often, but if you do, you don't really need to keep track of it if you know there's only 5 of them available. So that's the idea of periodic is you don't really care to truly keep track of it, okay? Because it's an item that you don't really sell often, or it's just something that you don't need to take a physical count all the time for. That is periodic inventory. You check on it occasionally, or you update the inventory occasionally, all right? Where perpetual inventory, which QuickBooks is going to be default settings for, right, allows you to keep track of the inventory when you purchase it. Like I've mentioned before, right? When you purchase inventory, it's going to update the inventory and say you have the X amount available, okay? When you sell the inventory, it's going to keep track of the sales, and at the same time, it's going to keep track of getting rid of the items, okay? Now, if you've seen this before, and I know you might have seen this before, you go to Target, they have a computer system that scans that barcode, and they can tell you exactly how much items they have in inventory. That is precisely the perpetual method right there. Just by scanning a barcode, you can instantly know how much items you have at all times. And if you say, oh, we have 2 in the back, you sell those 2 items, you scan it through the system, boom, automatically it updates the inventory and says that now you have no longer any more items. Okay, so that's the same idea here, is that QuickBooks is going to use the perpetual type of inventory to keep track of your inventory. So at all times, you're constantly going to know how many items you have left and how many items you have sold, right? And that's the cool thing. And guess what? We don't have to do anything. All we got to do is just run our sales receipt or invoice, and it does it automatically in the background for you. Okay? So that is going to be the tracking methods. Okay? Other things that you need to know too is going to be understanding how QuickBooks actually calculates the cost of goods sold. Okay, so every time you sell an item, right, it's going, once again, the selling price includes not only how much it costs you, but a specific percentage of profit that you wanted to earn. Now, in the background, the way that we keep track of our inventory is also through the way that we cost it. So in this case, the book is going to be calculating, so every time you sell a product, right, it's going to calculate it as an average cost, all right? And that is specific for Pro, Premier, and Accountant, okay? Now, for example, there are other ways that you can cost inventory, such as the FIFO, LIFO, and I believe they have enhanced costing. They have law costing, which I've never heard of. Those are more advanced terms in calculating how much to calculate the cost of goods sold. Now, in this case, right, just to take a real quick rewind, FIFO, okay, is for people who are not people, for the items when you sell that have some kind of expiration date. So a great example of FIFO users to calculate the cost of goods sold is going to be based on a grocery store, right? Because if you're going to be buying batches of inventory, right, the idea is that the first batches that you buy first are going to be the first that you sell out first. And in that kind of way, you should sell your perishable goods first because they have an expiration date. So if you think, for example, milk, if you decide to put all your older milks in the very back, they're going to spoil and you just wasted your money there. Where you put the more newer ones in the back, or the ones that have a longer lifespan, and you put the older ones in the front. That's FIFO. You're getting rid of your first batches that you purchased, and you're going to cost them out those ones first. And in those ones, you're going to be keeping a really detailed tracking about each item that you purchase. So as mentioned before, right? Today, my picture frames can cost me $5. Tomorrow, due to a forest fire, my picture frames are now double the price, or they're now costing me $5.85 because now there's a shortage of wood. Then that's what the idea is, that which method of costing is it going to benefit your type of company, and only Enterprise has the capacity to be able to handle all of those other ones. Only Pro, Premier, and Accountant only does the average costing, which in the book, if you've read it, gives you a section on how that the calculation of the average costing works, okay, and how it's calculated behind the scenes, okay. So once again, all of this stuff is automated for you, okay. All you got to do is you just got to enter in the information, and it does it for you behind the scenes, okay? All right, any questions between that whole section?
No.
Okay. All right, so once again, the way that we use our, the way that we use our inventory items is going to be based on whether you receive a bill for purchasing them or whether you go and sell them out. So in this case, it looks like in this example, it's just showing you an example of how you utilize items in a form. All right. So here it says that for this form here from Ace Supply, right, we purchased 2 picture frames, right, and it will fill in the information for you automatically. Okay. Once again, I'm going to skip this section because we don't really need to do it because we will be practicing how to enter all of these things in. Okay. Okay. Next is going to be activating inventory. I already went over that section. Okay. So, yes. Right. Setting inventory parts. We just did that. So we set up our 5x7 wooden picture frames. Okay. All right. So let's see what else next. Okay. So now let's go ahead and see how we are able to utilize the inventory part where we are going to actually dive right into making our purchase orders. Okay, so the section, if you don't know what average costing does, it's pretty straightforward. Every time you make a purchase of items, you're going to get a total cost and a total quantity. And basically what you're doing here is you're dividing them by the total cost by the total quantity to get an average cost. Once again, this whole section explains how QuickBooks Pro, Premier, and Accountant calculates the cost of goods behind the scenes. Once again, I'm not going to be testing you on this, okay? But just to know that general information that it's only capable of doing that costing, okay? So let's see, inventory for inventory items, invoicing, okay? So let's go ahead and take a look at our very first sale, okay? So this is how we actually use our items on the actual invoice itself. So let's go ahead. We're going to sell Mr. Jerry Perez 2 metal picture frames, right? So let's go ahead and dive right in, right? How do I create an invoice? Right?
Click on create an invoice,
You can, where? What do you call this?
the homepage.
The home page. Good, that's one way. What if that's not available? How else can I create an invoice?
Customer list.
You-
Customer list or vendors, depend.
Not vendors list. You can't sell to your vendors.
So customer center.
Customer center.
Yes, you could do customer center, right? If I go to customer center, where on the customer center can I enter in?
You click on the customer and you can.
And then what? If I click on the customer, how do I create an invoice?
Choose a customer.
We selected the customer.
We select the customer and then
Double click.
double click on the.
Section.
If you double click on it, you're editing the profile.
No, you double click on the right on the. You click select the customer and then you click on the.
Under new transactions.
Okay. New transactions,
New
excellent.
transaction.
Okay,
Invoice.
right? You could create an invoice that way. Yes. You can right click, not double click. If you right click on the customer, you can create an invoice. And down below, manage transactions, you
and
can
then
create
new
an invoice.
transaction. Uh-huh.
Okay. So again, QuickBooks is going to be testing you on navigation. So you need to be very precise. If I say how to enter in a bill, you have to tell me where, location wise. You say enter bills. That's what. How do you enter? Well, how do you enter it? I'm asking you how. So you're gonna have to tell me location wise. On the home page, through the menu bar, go to the vendor center, right click on a customer, new transactions, manage transactions. Okay. So you need to
How
be
many different
very.
ways is there to create an invoice?
6. Okay, so we did 1, 2, and then 3 on the customer center, and then the last one's on the income tracker. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and do the simplest way, which is on the home page, and create an invoice. Okay. All right, so we're creating an invoice for Mr. Jerry Perez. There he is. Okay, Perez Jerry. Okay. Let's see, what is his class? I believe it's walnut, if I'm not mistaken.
It's Walnut.
Walnut Creek? Perfect. Okay. Walnut Creek. The date. When?
Have image photography or something like that. Something different.
Wow, they didn't even change this one either. All right, but it's supposed to say Imagine Photography.
Image.
Okay, Academy Photography is what they used in the previous book. Okay, they just didn't change it. So this is one of the 21 files that they just converted over, and they didn't even change it. All right, so here, this one is, what date did they purchase this?
April 30th, 2025.
April 30th of 2020.
Yes, April 30th. Yes. 2025.
Okay, so I'm going to go to April 30th, 2025. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and just change the year here and then click on the calendar just to make sure I confirm it. So there you go, April 30th for 2025. And then invoice number is going to be 2025-1.
106.
106, okay. Okay.
106.
So now, what are the items that I sold to Jerry Perez? We sold to him a 5x7, right? Now we have two options, right? 5x7 wooden or 5x7 metal. In this case, we only sold the metal picture frames, okay? So if I click on it, it's going to fill in all the things automatically for me, okay?
You have a PO number, you know?
A what number?
A PO number.
They have a PO number. What is it?
Yep. 70407.
70407.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. Net 30. Okay. So once again, now by me just adding that item in there, it filled in the description for me. It filled in how much I'm going to charge my customer for, and it filled in that this is a taxable item. Okay. I don't need to do anything except for fill in the quantity. In this case, I sold only 2 to Mr. Jerry Perez. And watch this. It will automatically calculate for me right here saying that he owes me $11.98. But because this item is taxed, down below shows me that they're going to get taxed at 8.25%, which is only 99 cents. So their total that they owe me is going to be for $12.97. Okay. Once again, thank you for your business. Memo here. You could say you sold 2 picture frames, or in this case, 2 metal picture frames. Okay.
On the bottom, it's right customer tax code. Is have any purpose? We have to change something here if it's tax or service or something, but in many practice they don't change anything.
What do you mean?
On the bottom, customer tax code.
Okay.
Yes, that is taxes here because it's the same. Sometimes you have if you do practice and it's right, and it's service on the top, and that is still taxes.
Well, okay, so okay, we talked about sales tax codes, right? Especially for customer types. This is just a regular customer, so he's going to get taxed regardless. So remember when we talked about customers, right? You can
Yes.
so you could separate whether a customer can be taxed or not.
Oh, so on the top you calculate for the service or the product what it is, and that's the type of customer is normally is pay tax. We pay the tax
Yes,
on
this is a regular commercial customer. They're going to get taxed. They cannot be tax exempt for any reason unless they work for a nonprofit organization or they work for the government.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So once again, or for example, right? If they are a veteran, they get a special tax.
Yeah.
In this case, he's a regular customer, so that's just what that bottom section stands for. Is what kind of customer is this? This is a regular customer.
Because if you change on the, for example, if you want to change that, the computer asks you, or QuickBook asks you if you really want change the tax from the customer or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
That's because you're changing information on this person's customer profile. But if you don't and you say this is just a one-time thing, then you click no. Because once again, Jerry Perez, he's already in the system, and because me typing it in here, it pulled everything that I already set up for him. It pulled out his address, it pulled out the terms, it pulled out what kind of customer he is. That's all that means.
okay, I get it. Thank you.
Okay. So there we go. Now I can go ahead and click save and close. All right. Beep of approval. All right. So now that's how we use items on our invoices, sales forms, whatever means that you have to sell an item. Okay. So you only have 2 items, right? Or 2 ways to sell an item: sales receipt or invoice. And that's how we use items. Right? Any questions there? Okay.
No.
All right. So in this case, it told us to stay on that page. Whoops. Because we're going to show you how the actual accounting behind the scenes actually works. So if you go to this one, so this is the one that we just worked on. If you go all the way up to the top and click on reports, okay? Yep. Click on reports, you have a transaction journal. This, if I click on this, it's going to show me how the journal worked in operating the sales behind the scenes. So in this case, right, it shows that they linked Jerry Perez, okay? And this is the account that they used. They dropped it into the accounts receivable because it's an invoice. And let me see if I can pull this information a little wider so you guys can see. So they pull the information to the accounts receivable because it's an invoice. He owes me money. It also includes sales because I sold something. It also affected my inventory asset because I got rid of 2 picture frames. And it also calculated the cost of goods sold because I sold 2 picture frames. And last but not least, because I charged tax, it charged tax. So this is how you can see the transaction behind the scenes. And it tells you right here which items were debited and which items were credited. Okay? So once again, this is your transaction journal. So this, for those who have the accounting experience, this is where you can see if you made a mistake or not. All right? Now again, QuickBooks, 95% of the time, they're doing what they're told, and the other 5% is due to human error because we're the ones that's punching this information in here. So most mistakes would just be commonly our mistakes because we're the ones that's punching in information in here. Okay, but again, QuickBooks is pretty straightforward. It does the accounting for you behind the scenes, and it matches each and every single account to make the debits and credits equal. All right. So that's your transaction journal right there. Okay, wait, I'm going to go ahead and click cancel. I don't want to accidentally, that one. All right, no. So once again, we already saved Jerry Perez, so we don't need to see him anymore. Any questions in regards to transaction journals? Right?
No.
Okay. So let's see what is next. Now we can finally utilize our purchase orders. Okay. Here's a few things that you need to know as a purchase order. Okay. A purchase order, right, is similar to an estimate or a sales order, right? In this case, it's a pending transaction. So what we call this is a non-posting transaction, all right? Because at the end of the day, all we are really doing is we're just sending a request to purchase inventory, all right? Nothing, no dollars were used in this transaction, right? We were quoted the amount. Did we pay? No. Did we receive a bill? No. Did I receive my items? Not yet. So in this case, right, a purchase order is going to be considered a non-posting transaction. Okay? And with that being said, therefore, it's just a means to order your inventory. All right? That's just a little thing for you there. But that's not the only way that we can purchase inventory, right? We talked about how, yes, you can actually physically go to the store, purchase everything that you need, and pay cash up front and leave. And, you know, that's your inventory. Yes, you can do that just as fine as well. But they do recommend you to use purchase orders because it just makes it that much more easier to update your inventory. It keeps track for you. All right? QuickBooks is smart. Now, however, if you are planning to purchase inventory from the store, this is how you do it. Okay, so you can make your purchases by selecting the vendor or what so on and so forth, right? You can do that through just writing a check, or you can actually use the enter credit card transaction window. Okay, so we're going to talk about that right now. Okay, so for example, right, we purchased inventory from Wong and Son, and let me see, we're going to do a credit card transaction this time. Okay, all right, so here we are. We're going to enter in our credit card transaction. How can I enter in a credit card transaction?
From the homepage,
Okay, that's one. What's the other way?
Register
What kind of register?
the credit card.
You could do them through the credit card register. Good. And where's the last way?
Under banking on the menus at the top.
Good. Banking on the menus at the top, enter credit card transaction. Excellent. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and utilize the home page just because it's just easy and convenient. So here you go. I'm going to go ahead and charge my credit card. Okay. Once again, the date is fine. Reference number. I don't think there is one. But let me see. So, first things first is going to be purchased from. We purchased this from Wong and Son. Okay. Okay. And
Oh man, sorry.
okay. So here we are, Wong and Son. We purchased from Wong and Son. And here, let's see what it is. I believe we bought, let's see, I think we bought either cameras or we bought something from him. So purchase, write a check right here. We're going to be purchasing
Would it be the super zoom lens?
super zoom lens. Correct. We're going to buy 5 of them. Okay. And the date here is actually going to be 4/7. So April 7. Oops. April 7. Right. So we're going to purchase from them. So it says right here that because we have them, right, we're going to purchase subscriptions. No, we're not. We're going to be purchasing lenses from them. Okay. Now notice this. Why is my, every time I type in here, nothing's popping up? Well, I'm not typing in correctly, but why am I not, when I'm in this little window right here, why is it that I can't locate lens? Okay. It's because I'm on the expense tab, okay? So the one thing that you need to make sure is because we're purchasing an actual item, you need to click on the items tab. Okay, so it's very faint on, you can see the tab, it's very light gray, but you can toggle between expenses and you can toggle between items. So in this case, right, I was on the expense, which only allowed me to access accounts. Where in this case, I need to make sure I click on items, which then now I'm able to type in lens. And there it is, it populates right there. Okay, so that's the key thing that you need to know is when you do credit card transactions and you are purchasing items, you need to toggle that tab right there. Okay, so I'm purchasing lens, right? And I'm purchasing 5 of them, so quantity is 5. Okay, and there we have it for $184.99. Okay, all right. Everything looks good. Class is going to be Walnut Creek once again. Okay. And everything looks good. And now I'm going to go ahead and click Save and Close. Okay. Reference number, again, you can have whatever it is that you want to put in there in this case. It's whatever your credit card statement or whatever your receipt has. But it's okay if I don't have one, so I'm going to go ahead and click Save and Close. Okay. So by me purchasing 2 of those lenses, let's go ahead and take a look at my stock status, okay? Because this is where I can keep track of my items, right? If I go to my reports and I click items or inventory, I can click on my inventory stock status, okay? Stock status by item. So if I go ahead and click that, now let's take a look. I just bought lenses, all right? I bought 2 of them. So I originally, on hand, okay, it didn't go through. I don't know why. I purchased 2 lenses and it didn't go through. Oh, okay, so there you go. I'm on the wrong one. There you go. If I click on all and click on that refresh button, okay, now it's going to show me that I have 12 available on hand. So previously I only had 10. I purchased 2 more, so now I got 12 in total. Okay. Now let's take a look at this because I want you to keep a real good attention to this one. Right now, my picture frames for my metal picture frames, I have 60 on hand. Okay. And for my wooden picture frames, I have currently 0. Okay. So let's keep these numbers in mind, okay? And watch what happens when we do a purchase order, okay? No. So now that we got to take a look at how we're able to purchase our items manually, all right? Now let's go ahead and see what it's like to use a purchase order itself, okay? So right here, I'm going to go to purchase orders, okay? Now there are also 7 ways for you to go ahead and enter in a purchase order, okay? Again, the first one is on the home page, so make sure you're on this page right here because you will be helping me fill out this section right here, okay? So once again, home page, number 1, right? Number 2, you could go up to the vendors menu and create a purchase order, okay? Once again, you can even find that under your vendors menu, right? You have new transactions, right? Purchase order. You can right click on a supply and create a purchase order. Oh, wrong one. Purchase order, okay? You can even go down to manage transactions and create a purchase order, okay? And even if you have your bill tracker, you should also be able to create your purchase orders here as well. Okay? So that, once again, that was 6 ways that you can enter in a purchase order. Okay? So I'm gonna close my I'm gonna close out all these windows, so then I have just my home page. Okay? Because I'm going to just enter my purchase order right there. Okay? So, okay, come on. So here's my purchase order. I'm going to maximize my window. All right. Now, depending on what vendor that you select to make purchase orders from, it's going to be pretty much, you know, who you're going to be purchasing your inventory items, right? So in this case, my person I go to is going to be Ace Supply. All right. Now that I have Ace Supply, what class is going to be Ace Supply for? Walnut Creek. Okay. So the Walnut Creek location needs some picture frames. All right. Let's see what else. All right. Purchase order. We're going to purchase it on the 7th. Okay. There we are, of 2025. So I'm way in the future. Walnut Creek. And then the invoice here, or the purchase order number, is going to be 2025-1. Okay, this is going to be my first purchase order for the year 2025. Okay. Now again, drop ship to, that depends, right? Usually this is set to the store. If you are going to have it shipped directly to your customer, you can do that as well. In this case, it should be automatically to the actual Academy photography. So in this case, you could just leave it blank. You don't need to fill it in. Okay? This is only if you are going to ship it to someone else. Okay? So now that we have it right here, ship to is going to be Imagine Photography, 123 Main Street, which is correct. Okay? And I believe they purchased, let me see, they only have one. Okay. So let's go ahead and list out the items that we are actually purchasing. So we're going to be purchasing, again, our 5x7 metal frames. Okay. All right. We're going to fill in 20 of those items. Okay. Now notice this.
Yeah.
Okay.
The 20 is coming from the report that you saw before, or is...
This is what we're ordering. This is this is what we're ordering.
You remember that you showed the report before, and it showed that you have to order 20. We don't have more frames, or we don't have. I don't know.
No, we had 60 of the metal frames left.
Oh, so it was something that you had to order. You say on the side. I don't know what was. That's the reason I asked you.
Okay. In this case, I'm just making a random purchase order. It doesn't matter how many items I have on stock. I have 60 metal frames and 0 of the wooden frames. So in that case, in this case, I'm ordering more than what I already have because I'm just showing you an example.
Okay. It's the same number. That's the reason I asked you. I was thinking that that's what you ordered.
No, this number doesn't. No. This is okay. So you're talking about the minimum. No, in this case, I'm just ordering 20 of them.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Okay.
Right.
So now 5x7 wooden, and I'm just gonna order 20 of them. Okay. Now notice this. When I type that in, right? This is the item that we created. As you can see, 5x7 wooden picture frame. Right? It's different, obviously. But again, it's the same meaning. You don't have to make it all look the same unless you want to. All right. So there you go. Right. I placed in that my purchasing price, or what's going to cost me, is $5. All right. And now the quantity I put in is 20. So 20 times 5 is going to be a total of $100. Okay. All right. Now that's what your book says, but I'm going to tell you there's a lot of typos in this chapter alone. Okay? So once everything looks good, if you want to write a message to your vendor, you can. Another thing too, you could say 20 metal and 20 wooden picture frames. Okay. All right. So there we have it. Okay. And now I'm going to go ahead and save and close. All right. And then now, if I, for any reason that I need to make a change to my purchase order for any reason, all I have to do is locate my vendor. Okay, so Mr. Ace Supply. Okay, I can check out the list of transactions that I had with Ace Supply, and there we have it. Purchase order number 2025-1. I can modify it, say, hey, I want to add maybe 40 more picture frames, or I need to cancel an order, right? This is exactly where you can modify it, okay? You could say, hey, I need to buy 20 more items, or I need to buy separately, I need to buy 5 more items, okay? This is where you can adjust it, and of course, you're going to be contacting your vendor to make sure that they get the revised version. But this is right here, by you putting this in here, you're not sending the vendor anything, all right? Everything here is just to keep track of yourself. So you created a purchase order, right? You're not sending this out to anybody because you got to print it out and send it out manually. Or you need to call the actual company up and email this purchase order to them, okay? In this case, this is what I'm doing. So this is where I can modify, make changes if I need to cancel my order or up my order or tell them I need it immediately, etc., etc. Okay. So once again, I'm going to save that and let it go. All right. Okay. So then now let's follow our track on our inventory on our home page, okay? Because that's going to determine us how important it is to keep track of this. So now that I've entered in a purchase order, what is the next thing I need to do?
Receive the inventory.
We need to receive the inventory. Now, there, you notice this? My receive inventory has a tiny triangle on it, okay? And let's go ahead and toggle and see what those 2 triangles say. Now, I have 2 options. I can receive the inventory with a bill, or I can receive the inventory without a bill, all right? And well, I'm going to teach you both ways, okay? But for this example here, I'm going to be showing you the first one, which is going to be without a bill, okay? Now, let's notice this, okay? So that's one way of doing it is on the home page, okay? There, you can do it on the menu bar as well. You go to vendors, and this time, instead of receiving it with a bill or without a bill, you're just going to receive items, okay? That's the same thing as receiving items without a bill, because if you look at the top one, it says receive items and enter a bill. And that's not what we want. Okay. And then same thing if I'm in my vendor center, right? I can go to the new transactions, and my options is I can either receive items or receive items enter a bill for received items. So there's a lot of different terminology going on here, but they all do the same thing. So your main focus is you're just receiving the items by themselves, okay? Same thing if I go and right click on them, I will have the option to receive items, or I can receive items and enter bills, okay? And then again, manage transaction, I can just simply have an item receipt, which is what we're going to be taking a look at, or I can pretty much enter in a bill, okay? So there's a lot of fancy terminologies when you're looking into this, but they all do the same transaction, okay? And of course, if you go to the income tracker, same options there. You can receive an item or receive items with a bill, Okay, so in this case, I'm going to go back to my home page and I'm going to click on receive items without a bill. So the minute I click on that window, I'm going to get what's called an item receipt. Okay? Now, an item receipt, this is very common for companies to understand because an item receipt is essentially the same thing as a packaging slip. Okay? So when you order large quantities of items and you notice that that you get a bunch of boxes shipped to you, but none of them come with a receipt, and then when you receive the items, maybe you only receive a portion of the item. Maybe you received half the items, or some items are missing. It's because you just received a packaging slip. Okay? And that's very common, especially when you are requesting for large quantities, because sometimes, right, you're not the only customer that's purchasing their items. Maybe they are low in production. Maybe they're low in stock. Okay? So they can only send you what they have. All right? And maybe the next few days later, you'll receive your other half later. But understand that when you receive items without a bill, you're going to have a packaging slip on there. All right? Make sure that you pay attention and don't just throw the box away and wait for the item receipt. Or I'm sorry, wait for the bill. You need to make sure that you save that packaging slip because it can in this case you can compare and contrast what you received versus what you actually did not receive. So it's very important that you keep track of every packaging slip that you have, and you can make a reference point here as well. Okay? So in this case, right, I'm in my item receipts window, okay? And I click on and I say I received from a supply. So once I've done that, boom, I get a huge notification saying, hey, this vendor is linked to a purchase order. Is that correct? Is that what you want? And we're going to say yes. Okay? And then now we see here that under my purchase orders, okay, I have one pending for the 2021 purchase order for the 20 metal and 20 wooden picture frames. Okay? And by clicking this check mark right here, I click OK. And now all the information that I had from the purchase order transfers into the item receipt. All right. In this case, I received it the same day. So maybe I emailed them and they shipped it to me right away. All right. And in this case, my reference number is going to be 4431. Okay. Now, usually what I like to do for packaging slips is you just put the packaging code there for the reference number, or what you could do is you could refer it back to your PO, original PO number. That's what I would recommend. Once again, I'm just following what the book says. So in this case, we're just trying to keep track of the orders that we are looking at. So notice this. It's telling me that I have a total of $143. Okay? In this case, no. I only received 10 of the metal frames and only 20 of the wooden frames. So in this case, right, that's where I can say, okay, this packaging slip, I only received half of my metal frames, but I did receive all of the wooden frames. Okay? And that's what usually happens with packaging slips, is that sometimes you'll get half the order, a quarter of the order, whatever it is, because the vendor is just shipping out what they have available. So by me modifying this, right, I received 10 and I got 20 of those wooden picture frames, okay? Then I can go ahead and say, all right, that's what I received, so I'm going to go ahead and click Save and Close. Okay? Now, if you remember that inventory stock status, let's go ahead and take a look at that report real quick. Okay? So if I go ahead and go to Inventory, and I check out my stock status by item, okay? And I'm going to change this to all again. Now notice this. I upped my metal frames by 10, So I have 70 available now. When previously I only had 60. And here, notice this. Now I have 20 under my wooden frames. And that's how QuickBooks utilizes a simple transaction from making a purchase order and actually receiving the items. Now it automatically updated my inventory. Okay? Any questions there?
No.
Okay?
No.
All right. So now I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this. Now that I just received my items, right, I'm still pending on my bill. So then what happens next? Okay. So let's say a few days later, I finally received my other half of my metal picture frames. So I'm going to enter them exactly the same way. I'm going to receive my items without a bill. And I'm going to do the same thing here. And guess what? QuickBooks is going to keep track of your purchase orders as well. So I typed in Ace Supply and boom, I get another notification telling me that this person's linked to a purchase order, an open purchase order. And I'm going to click yes. And it's the same exact purchase order. Okay? I click on it, click OK, and notice this. It filled in with the items I was pending on, right? It filled in the information automatically by telling me you should have received the other half of the purchase order, which is 10 picture frames here. Okay? And this time, this is going to be reference number 4441. Okay? And let's say I received this 3 days later. Okay? And then now I can go ahead and click Save and Close. Okay? So let's take a look again. Right? I go to my vendor center and let's see what happens, right? I go to Ace Supply and let's take a look at my transactions, right? So again, this is all of them. Now what you're going to notice is that you have a purchase order, right? And you have item receipts, okay? Now keep an eye on this because watch what will happen, okay? So now that I received my second item receipt, right? The next thing I gotta do now is I have to now enter bills against inventory. So once again, you first recognize all your packaging slips, but now your second packaging slip should come with a bill. So by me clicking on the next transaction here, next thing I have here is I'm going to be selecting my vendor, which is going to be Ace Supply. All right? And when I click on Ace Supply, boom, it pulls out 2 item receipts that I have currently. And if I click on the first one, right? Now, here's the only bad thing about this here is that you can only do one at a time. You can't click on multiple of them and then create one bill out of it. Unfortunately, you're going to have to create separate bills out of it. But you can pay more than one bill with one transaction. So that's why I think the reference number needs to be the purchase order part 1, part 2. All right? But in this case, it's fine. We're just going to make this bill, we're going to just make this item receipt and convert it into a bill. And I click OK. What's going to happen is it's going to pull that item receipt and now, do you see that? It went item receipt, changed right into a bill. Okay? And it's going to be exactly like this, right? And I did the dates correct, the reference numbers correct, everything looks correct. And this time we have this. And I want to put in my memo, right? This was purchase order number 2521-1, received ten metal and 20 wooden frames.
It's not all the order. purchase that you did, you receive later the same. You have 20 and 20.
Right. And that's what I'm telling you right now is that that's the bad thing about the converting my item receipts because I got two separate packaging slips. So in this case, I need to make a note right here saying this was for purchase order 25-1, but I only received 10 metal frames and 20 wooden picture frames. Okay?
Uh-huh.
And I'm going to go ahead, click save and close. All right, and then it says, all right, you have changed the transaction. Do you want to record it? Yes. Okay. So there's my very first item receipt. And let's take a look at that item receipt one more time. Okay. What happened to my item receipt? It's converted now into a bill. Okay. All right. So now let's go ahead and do that very last one. So now and you have to do it this way. There's only one way to receive the items. After you receive the items, this is the only way that you can convert it from an item receipt to a bill. All right. So once again, I'm going to click on that A supply. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and click on this. And then now in the notes, I'm going to do it once again. This was purchase order number 25-1. All right. Received remaining 10 metal frames. Okay. That way, you know that this one is related to the very original purchase order. Okay? And that's what you got to do. Unfortunately, you can't click on all the item receipts and convert them all into one bill. You have to do it separately. Okay? However, right, we learned how to pay our bills. You can pay multiple bills in one check. Yes.
What do we make this 2025-2 since this was a second order?
No, because it's the same purchase order.
Same order.
Well, it's the same purchase order, but it's the second batch that we got from that PO, isn't
So
it?
you have the same number.
Oh, the -1 was the original PO.
Yes. But
I
the
thought you were, like,
reference
separating them
number.
from the first received to the second received.
No, in this case, I'm making a mental note that this was the original purchase order was 25-1, and I
So it came
received
to-
the remaining 10 items. So I'm making a mental note, but also a physical note saying that this was from the original purchase order, which was originally 20 items and 20 of the metal and 20 of the wooden. But in this case, my bills became separated because they were separated into shipping packages. Now but in this case, I cannot convert multiple item receipts and make it into one bill. That's the unfortunate part here. So I have to record two separate bills because I got two separate shipping packages. Okay.
So we could put it like for our reference on the memo, like 1 of 2 packages or 2 of 2 packages. So that way we know that one PO was split up into 2 orders.
Correct. And that's why I mentioned it earlier. For the reference number, I would have straight up put the purchase order -1 part A.
Right.
Right? That to me, that's a better reference number than 4441 and 4443. That doesn't make any sense. To me, that would be the best way to do it. I would have done purchase order 2025-1 part A. And that would have been a better reference point because then I know that these two bills are linked together into the same purchase order. Okay? So once I do that, I can go ahead and click save and close. Yes. And now let's take a look at my vendor center one more time. And there we have it. All of my item receipts are now converting into bills. Okay. Any questions in regards to item receipts? Okay.
No.
All right. So right now it is exactly 3 318, 319. I'll go ahead and take your 15-minute break now. So let me see, 15. So 36, 35. Is that right? 20 plus 10 plus 5. Yes. Please be back no later than